Hey friend, do you want to learn how to play just one in underneath a minute? Well, sit back and relax because it's super duper easy. Step one, everybody writes a clue. We have one clue. Now normally when you start the game you make a deck of 13 cards, and on somebody's turn you just go around, you flip a card, and hey, look at that. Let's say for the sake of argument here I have number 2, and that's cheddar. Now what do we know about cheddar? Cheddar's a cheese, cheddar's orange, stuff like that. Well, let's see what kind of clues people make up. Oh, hey, look at that. Somebody wrote cheese. And somebody else wrote orange. We're off to a good start. Somebody wrote slice. Sure, yeah, you get sliced cheese. Somebody else wrote sliced. And hey, look at that. There is slice and sliced, and those are pretty darn similar. If something's pretty much the same word, cancel them out. You don't get to look at them. Okay, well, heck, now we've looked at all of our things. Now we're going to turn them over to the clue guesser. Look at that, buddy. You get orange and cheese. What's my guess? Cheddar. Bingo bongo. We won the game. Great job. You get a point. Do that like 12 more times. Score yourself, have fun. That took less than a minute to learn. Wow. What a simple, fun, quick to pick up game. And it can be yours for the low, low price of about 20 bucks at Target or atomicempire.com. Buy it now. Or, check out your local library, see if maybe you can rent it. A lot of libraries have board games these days. Or you know what? Maybe you're like me and you like to go to a local board game meetup, and isn't that fun? Regular guy here talking about my stuff once again. Let's go a little bit more in depth, shall we? Now, check out the rule book that comes with it. In total, it's like 4 pages. You can read this thing in like 5 minutes or less. So even if you think I'm full of crap talking about how to play, you can teach yourself just like that. Oh boy. And then you can teach your own friends how to play in a minute. And then you know what? You can just have a grand old time. This plays up to 7 people. Plays at least 3, of course, but up to 7 people. Now that is a terrific party game. And you're probably thinking, well, how long does it take? Is this like a big old thing? No, it's not a big old thing. This only takes about, in total, 20 minutes if you play the whole 13 rounds. Now, if you're like my group, you think of this more as just like a fun activity. So what we do instead is we just go around the table and let people go in turns, being the clue guesser. And they get to pick a card and pick a number. And then they don't know what it is. They'll have it held up like this, And everybody else gets to give them the clues. It's real easy, real simple. But like I said, it's more like a fun activity. You can play as many rounds as you want, or as much as you want. Sorry, as little as you want. You know what? Sometimes I tend to misspeak. I tend to stutter a little bit, folks. Bear with me. I do appreciate you. All right, so that's what's in there. Now then, let's take a look at what's inside the box. You're going to get 7 little placards. They are white erase boards. You're going to get 7 little markers with little erasers. They don't work that great, frankly. You might want to buy some better ones at some point, if you're into that. And then you get a whole big old deck of cards. And you're going to make your 13 cards out of this big old deck. Look at that. It's a pretty simple game, pretty easy, not a whole lot to it, and you can get it pretty cheap. Heck, you know what? You might even be able to get it at the library. Just one. Check it out. It is wonderful. All right, now then, for my longtime listeners, I did promise I would one day tell you about the sword, and I have been messing around and kind of just jerking you around for a while. So, it's actually a pretty fun story. I was coming out of my apartment one day, and I saw a moving truck. And I went and I talked to the people who were moving, and they said, hey, I walked up to them and I'm like, hey, I do LARPing. Is that a foam sword? I saw that big one over there in the black. I didn't realize that that's actually just its sheath, big old leather sheath. So, no, the guy's just like, no, this is actually a real sword. And I'm like, oh, damn, cool, man, cool. And he's just like, yeah, do you want it? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, do you want it? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm moving. I don't have a place for this sword. And you don't say no to a sword. I mean, like, that's destiny grabbing you by the haunches right there. So I said, sure, why not? And he said, well, actually, do you want this other sword? And I said, what? And he said, yeah, actually, you know what? I have 2 swords here. And I don't really have room for them. And I said, wow, you're telling me that's 2 swords and I can just own them and I don't owe you money? And he said, yeah. And I said, is this a trick? And he said, no. I'm like, well, you're like the coolest neighbor ever. Why are you moving out? And he said, bed bugs. And I said, shit. Anyway, long story short, I don't have bed bugs, but I do have 2 swords. Isn't that fun? Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. You guys have a good night.